Bienvenidos! Welcome, everyone. Welcome to another live stream. If you're new around here, my name is Mariana. I am the owner and creator of Mexico Relocation Guide, and I'm so excited about my guest today, who is also a content creator and also teaches people a lot about living and retiring in Mexico, particularly La Paz. If you guys don't know Brighton yet, he has a wonderful channel called Almost Retired in Mexico. Don't worry, I'm going to share links to that. Thank you so much for being here today, Brighton.
Thank you so much for having me.
Today's topic is all about retiring early or retiring earlier with less money in Mexico, which is exactly what Brighton did and does. He's semi-retired. He still owns a company. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that because I'm sure you guys are wondering, can I continue working in Mexico? Do I need a work permit to work in Mexico if I'm working remotely? Things like that. So we're going to cover a lot of things today. And please, I would love for you guys to post your questions. I'm going to share them with Brighton, and then he's going to answer them as they come in. While we wait for some people to join us, I would love to know where you guys are watching us from. So feel free to chat in and let us know where you're watching from. If you're new around here and this is your first live stream, there's a button that says live chat. Go ahead and click on that and go ahead and post your questions or tell us where you're watching from. And if you're using your cell phone, it should show up as an icon that says live chat. If you're on your PC or your tablet, it should automatically pop up on the right side of your screen. So feel free to chat in and let us know where you guys are watching from. Brighton, you have a pretty good fan here. He says, I hope to be watching. Yeah, he's really enjoyed your videos and chat so far.
Thank you for being here, Dave.
Pam and Dave Barker. Or Baker, sorry. Thank you guys so much for being here. Texas, Alberta, Tucson. Thank you so much for being here, you guys. We're going to get started here in a minute. I just want to say hi to some of you guys. Vancouver, Mississippi. I haven't seen too many people from Mississippi. That's exciting. All right. Well, I want to introduce my guest again for you guys who are now just joining us. Thank you guys so much for keep on coming in and keep on telling us where you're watching from. I want to introduce again my guest today. If you're just now joining us, his name is Brighton. He has a great YouTube channel, which is how I found him. It's called Almost Retired in Mexico. He has really, really great content. So I highly encourage you to go follow him. Go ahead and stay for this live stream. I'm going to share his links. Don't worry. But yeah, why don't you tell us a little bit about you, Brighton?
I am switching over some network stuff because I'm starting to get a little bit of
fuzziness. Oh, it's okay. This happens. This is Mexico. And sometimes we have good internet and sometimes we have spotty internet.
Popping in and out.
Oh, no worries. No worries.
This is the beauty of working from Mexico. Yeah. So I think you asked me to kind of introduce myself and tell folks what I do. So I am Brighton West, and I live in La Paz. This is just my second winter living down here. My wife and I moved back and forth from Portland, Oregon. We're about to make the move north, but we spend the winters down here. It is wonderful in La Paz. La Paz, for those of you who don't know, is on the tip of the Baja Peninsula, about 2 hours north of the tip, which is Cabo San Lucas. So, but it is worlds away from the lifestyle of Cabo San Lucas. It is very much a local Mexican town. It's the state capital. And yeah, there's a number of us expats here. I'm sure we'll talk about that more as we go along. But yeah, I run my own business from here. So that's why I say I'm almost retired, because I'm still working. I've got a couple different things going on, but I don't have the stress of like really needing to make a bunch of money.
Now, had you ever visited Mexico before you decided to go to La Paz, or was that like your first introduction into a Mexican city?
Yeah, let me tell you a quick story about that. So Portland, Oregon is an awful place to live in the winter. It just rains and rains and rains and rains. So my wife is a consultant, and so we both have location independent jobs for about the last 5 years or so. So we were living usually in the winter a couple months in San Diego. and it was really expensive there in San Diego. I think we were paying probably close to $3,000 a month for a B&B, an Airbnb near the beach, just a couple blocks from the beach. So we had, of course, crossed the border at Tijuana and gone south and looked at some of the communities along there, and gone as far as Ensenada. And there's a number of expats that live along there because it's easy to work in the United States. You can physically work in the United States and live physically in Mexico. But none of that was really feeling right. But for my wife's birthday in February of 2020, I said, well, let's fly somewhere in Mexico. And I had heard of this place called La Paz, just in a blog post. I really didn't know anything about it. We flew down. My wife likes to hire volunteer real estate agents to give us a tour when we go somewhere. So we got someone to show us around, and we bought the first house that they showed us. So I think we got here on a Sunday, and Sunday night in Mexico, or Sunday in Mexico, is very much family day, and like it's really it's like a fun day. And Sunday night in La Paz on the Malecon, we were staying on the Malecon, and it's so lively, and everybody's out, and everyone's with their families, and it was like, oh my God, I love this place. And then Monday we go looking at houses, and we bought one. So yeah, that's how we ended up in La Paz. We didn't do any, we didn't rent before we bought. We didn't do any research on other places. I'm learning about all these other great places like Ajijic or Huatuco, which I just learned about. So yeah, there's some great places out there. Don't necessarily follow in my footsteps.
You bought right away. Yeah.
Which is how it works.
Usually, we do tell people like rent for at least a year, 6 months, just so you get acclimated, especially if you've never lived in Mexico before. It's way easier for you to find a different rental than it is for you to, sell your house and move. But some people, and it happens very often, you just fall in love and it just feels right, so you obviously have to do what's right for you. But if you know that you'd like to explore more and you're not really sure, then definitely rent for 6 months to a year. So did you consider any other area in the Baja Peninsula, or La Paz was the only place that?
Yeah, literally neither one of us had heard of La Paz until I read about it. I'm going to give the plug for Bike Portland. It's a blog post, or it's a blog in Portland, Oregon. And the owner had come to La Paz and did a story because it's very bikeable here. And I was like, oh, I read this blog. Here's this really cool looking. I saw some cool pictures. I'm like, let's go there. And it's very easy to get from La Paz to San Diego, especially. So Tijuana, there's the airport in Tijuana. If you're not familiar with it, the airport in Tijuana is on the U.S. border, and one door is on the U.S. side and one door is on the Mexico side. So it makes it super easy. You can fly from anywhere into San Diego and then just take a 45-minute Uber ride over to the Tijuana airport, and then you can fly anywhere in Mexico. And you actually walk across the border. For some people, sometimes that's cheaper, and for some people that's actually an easier thing to do. Sometimes walking across the border is easier than flying across the border. But so we just kind of came down, and it's like I said, it's very convenient here. We're 2 hours from Cabo, and Cabo has a airport with something like a dozen flights a day to LAX and locations all over the United States. So I'm not sure there is any place that we would want to live, any other place that we'd want to live in the Baja, being that we've been here and we've explored Todos Santos and Los Barriles, La Ventana, Loreto. So there's a number of places where gringos typically kind of end up, but this is the one that's definitely right for us. So we really lucked out. I mean, that's one thing we were thinking. We're like, wow, we could have come down here and realized, we wanted to be an hour away or something in some amazing community. And thank goodness that hasn't happened.
Yeah. You really, yourself, and it sounds like your wife knows herself too. And you guys obviously sound like you know how to make decisions together, right? So that's really great that you have that partner that can actually, go with the flow with you too.
Yeah, now, and that, just to be clear, that is nothing like either one of us. We are both very much like, by the book and whatnot, but both of us just kind of were like, I mean, not that over $100,000 is a small amount of money. But from where we are living in Portland, we're living in the city, and it just seems so inexpensive. And it was an amount of money that we were willing to risk. We weren't thinking this was going to be a real estate investment. We were like, it was $160,000 to buy a half-acre house with 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, plus a casita with a bathroom on the beach. We were like, even if this whole thing blows up,
you're not throwing your life savings away. Yeah,
right, exactly.
You could still recover.
It would hurt, but it wouldn't be devastating.
Yeah, I totally get it. That's like 2 brand new cars.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah. And for some people, that may be fully out of the question, right? To buy a house that's even $100,000, which is why renting is also an option in many parts of Mexico. Did you even consider rentals, or was it just like you saw this house and you were like, this is ours?
We really wanted to own because we were renting in San Diego, and I like to tinker around with things, and my wife likes to garden. So we really wanted to have a place that we could customize.
And 2 acres, that's a lot of land.
Oh, sorry. It's a half acre.
Oh, I'm sorry. I guess I just assumed.
Yep. But it's still, that's our lot.
That's still a lot of space.
1/10 of an acre. So yeah, this is pretty good.
How far are you from the beach?
So our swimming pool is about 10 feet from the beach. So
oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
There's not a lot of houses that are on the beach in La Paz, and we're one of them. We're lucky that way.
Wow. So you got land, a pool, and beachfront property, basically, for about $100,000.
It was about $160,000. So yeah, that's the gist of it, though.
You'd never be able to find that on any coast in the U.S.
Yeah, exactly. It's just so not possible in the United States. And so when we saw it, we were like, yeah. And it's interesting, though. We see our house had been on the market for 5 years. And I think that's why we got such a good deal on it, because they were having trouble selling it. And it was before COVID. It's probably doubled in value now because of COVID has just like everyone wants a house in La Paz. But there were so many people who had looked at our house that we're meeting now. And they're like, yeah, I wasn't willing to like go there in terms of like the lack of maintenance for 5 years. And we were like, this is a project. This is great. We'll take it.
Now, another thing that people, may not know if they're considering Mexico is property taxes are so incredibly low that if you didn't live there full time, if you just came to La Paz 6 months out of the year, 7 months out of the year, you're not racking up these huge property bills every month and every year.
Yeah, I think our property taxes are under $500. I think $450 here. And, back in Portland, it's probably closer to $6,000. And that's actually not a bad tax bill in the United States. So, yeah.
That's insane, isn't it?
Yes, it is amazing.
Now, did you end up driving down? Did you fly down? Did you bring your household goods, or did you furnish brand new?
So, one of the great things about here, and I'm assuming many places that are slightly more houses that are kind of sold to gringos, is if it's an existing house, it probably comes with furniture. Yeah. So the whole house was furnished. We just had to buy a few things. We bought an RV. We bought an old 1992 RV so that we can load up our pets. We have a dog and 2 cats, and then load it up with all the stuff we wanted to bring, like our computers and books and tools and kind of the stuff that was making it ours. But everything, all the kitchen stuff, the kitchen here is nicer than our kitchen in Portland. The previous owners were definitely cooks and bakers and whatnot. So all the stuff here, everything was here. And
that's great.
Yeah, it is. I've heard of people buying houses and getting the car as part of the deal, because if you think about it, if you're like this was an older couple, they were Canadian and they were living part-time in Canada, and they just decided one of them was getting sick, and Mexico wasn't right for them anymore. So if they had a car here, they probably would have been part of the deal too.
Yeah, definitely, right? They don't want to have to like deal with selling it and figuring that out on top of selling the house. So if they can just package it all together, more attractive to the buyer, and then obviously the seller can get out of it pretty quickly.
Exactly.
That's actually a great point. If you don't mind, sharing, you've been all over, and we're definitely going to get into, how you're able to retire on less money in Mexico, but you've been to all over the Baja Peninsula, and some people are considering Cabo, some people are considering Ensenada, Rosarito. So would you mind sharing why you find La Paz to be special?
Yeah, and I think it's, well, first off, like down to the Malecón. It's, I know that a lot of cities in Mexico have Malecones. That's a walkway along the water downtown. But by far, this is the nicest one I've seen. It's probably 2 miles long, and it is why there's so few houses on the beach, because most of the beach is public property. And at night, or people are, during the day, people are riding their bikes and they're walking and they're just enjoying it. And then at night, like especially on weekend nights, it really just turns into a big party.
Yeah.
So that felt really, really good. And La Paz is a destination, a tourist destination for people from Mexico City. And do you know the name of those people? I can't remember. There was a name.
Defeños? Chilangos?
Chilangos, which, yes, which depending, as I understand, which depending on how old you are, older people consider that derogatory, but younger people don't. Is that correct?
Yeah. It's weird, but nobody would really get offended. If you called my mama Chilanga, she wouldn't get offended by it.
Yeah. So they tend to come to La Paz for vacation. So the city is very much a Mexican city. It has a lot of more upscale dining. But if you go to those upscale dining places, there might be another couple of gringos in there, but it is very much feels like Mexico still. And if you're in like downtown La Paz, there's a good chance that the waiter will speak English, but it's definitely not a guarantee. Unlike San Jose del Cabo or Los Barriles or La Ventana, which are really just serving, Todos Santos, those are all serving Americans. And so it kind of feels weird to me, because you've got Mexicans who are the servers and Americans who are enjoying themselves, or Americans and Canadians who are enjoying themselves. It wasn't exactly what we were looking for. La Paz is very real. My Spanish is awful. And so I am really working every day to try to communicate. And it's great because it's pushing me. Because you can't expect people to speak English. I noticed down in Los Cabos, people are paying with US dollars and prices are in US dollars. And I'm like, well, where are you? This is supposed to be Mexican.
It's strange,
and often, sometimes paying US prices. I noticed there, like you get a margarita and it's maybe $10, and a margarita up in the States in a city might be 12 or 13, but here it's 5. So I'm not saying that we drink so many margaritas that it pays to be cost, but it is one of the benefits, is that things are more geared to a population that isn't as wealthy.
Yeah. It's a huge deal, especially for somebody who's thinking about moving to Mexico to possibly retire earlier, or possibly lower their income. Or their cost of living, or possibly retire on Social Security, which is usually a fixed income.
Right.
So it's definitely a big deal. And you have to consider these things for you guys that are watching. Yes, there are very popular like expat enclaves. You mentioned earlier, Brighton, Ajijic or Chapala. And, those places tend to attract a lot of retirees, but, with it also comes maybe a higher cost of living. Same with San Miguel de Allende or Playa del Carmen, areas like that.
Yeah, and I think that is a great point. Your expectations have to be a little different. Here in La Paz, I just kind of like look at the real estate. Typically, houses that are being built for the market of Canadians and Americans are selling for about $250,000 to $350,000. That's kind of like if people are building new houses, and you can get them, right around 200,000 or so, but that's like brand new houses built for Americans and Canadians. And in Cabo, it's more like 350 to 500,000 is kind of like the market for people. But here in La Paz, there is kind of the Mexican market. And so if you are going to, you can live in a brand new neighborhood where all your neighbors are Mexican, and the houses there might cost 85,000 for a brand new house. And you can move into a Mexican neighborhood where the houses aren't new and maybe pay $30,000.
Yeah,
So there are many different options. And I think you mentioned being on a fixed income, like, yeah, you can be in the US just hurting from how little money you have to coming down here to living very comfortably at whatever level you're at. You could really live comfortably.
totally agree. Totally agree. Would
Actually,
you mind?
I want to mention another one of my subscribers, Matthew. I
Yeah.
just had lunch with him. He is here in Mexico because he has cancer, and the medical treatment here, he can get top medical treatment here in La Paz. He actually started his cancer treatment in Cabo because they'd been to Cabo before. And so when he got cancer, he was like, well, you know, he didn't have insurance that was any good. So he said, well, let's look at this. Let's go finding a doctor in Cabo. Found a doctor in Cabo, did all of his chemotherapy there. And it was maybe 10% of what he would have paid in the US. And they would have gone bankrupt. And now he's in La Paz because La Paz has bigger hospitals with radiation treatments. So he's come here and he has said that, you know, it's just amazing, the medical treatment. So it's not just the medical treatment kind of along the border that caters to Americans, but he's going to the public hospital here, but he's paying cash. He's not using the, I guess you can get into
Like in Savvy or one of those?
Yeah, exactly.
Or IMSS?
Yeah, exactly. But he's going to the public hospital paying cash because it's just the best hospital. And it's still a lot of cash, but it's not anywhere near the amount that would happen in the United States.
Yeah, in the United States, he wouldn't be able to survive. Like he'd be bankrupt just taking care of his cancer. Where here, you know, he can pay for it out of pocket. It's expensive, but it's still more affordable than paying for it out of pocket in the US.
Yeah, I think he said that in the US, just creating the plan for how to deal with his cancer was going to cost him $30,000.
Oh my God.
And the treatment here, I think all of the treatment is like 10,000.
Wow.
An MRI was a few hundred, maybe 500 for an MRI. Perhaps if you're listening and you know how much MRIs cost, I don't. I just know they're really, really expensive in the United States. So that might give you a little bit of an idea.
They're like $5,000-$6,000 if you're paying out of pocket. It's insane.
Yep, exactly.
Insane. So, that's like a used car. That's crazy.
Yeah, and that is another thing to think about when you're considering where to live, because like Los Barriles is a beautiful area, has a lot of Americans there, Todos Santos, but they are an hour from the nearest hospital. So it's kind of like there are a lot of people here in La Paz who are older that are just like, they feel more comfortable being close to the really good hospitals. And I guess, I mean, really, if you were more concerned, you might want to go live near Mexico City or Guadalajara, where the best hospitals in the country are. But it's something to think about.
Yeah. Tijuana also has a great cancer center that really caters to a lot of the people living across the border. And they have amazing therapies that, I mean, like, are not FDA approved in the US, but have been proven to be really, really successful in curing people.
Yeah, I hadn't thought about that. That's great. Good to know.
Would you mind talking about some of your cost of living expenses just on a monthly basis? Like, for example, and because what I want to tie it to is just, you know, giving people an idea that you really can lower your cost of living for the same things. Like, what does your internet cost? You know, we already talked about your property taxes, but what does your internet cost? What about your grocery bill, your gasoline, things like that?
Yeah, so gasoline isn't necessarily cheap in Mexico, but it's not cheap in the US now either. But and we don't drive that much, and we ended up buying a Toyota RAV4, so kind of a more fuel efficient vehicle for when we're down here. So gas down here probably costs about $4.50 a gallon, I think. So that doesn't get that much cheaper. It is more steady than in the United States. I've noticed, like, when the US went like through the roof, Mexico went up a little bit, but it's because it is more government controlled. It's a little more, it's a little easier to just go up slowly. But internet, this is something, internet is very important, as you saw, as we attached here,
Yeah.
is that I was switching from cellular over to my Wi-Fi because I had forgotten about that earlier. Um, I want to say we pay about $50 a month for internet, but that is fiber and cable. So we've got a box sitting above me that actually combines the signals together from two different providers. So if one of them goes down, the other one automatically comes up. So it's
Got it.
it's a very robust system for
Yeah.
$50 a month. And yeah, that would be a lot. I mean, you'd have to pay at least $50 for each of those back home, if not more. Other things like, I mean, going out to eat, we go out to eat a lot.
Mhm.
So there is a wonderful restaurant that my wife just loves called Casa del Bagre. So if you go to my channel, there's a couple of videos from Casa del Bagre. But last night we went there and, a good meal was $25. And we look at it and we say, okay, well, that's, it's more than we're used to paying. But in the States, that'd be a $50 meal. So I look at most things here in La Paz cost about 50% of what they cost in the United States, especially when it comes to food and drink. And if you're looking for brand name stuff,
Mhm.
that will be more. But if you're
Sure.
just looking for, a pair of jeans, that will be less than 50%. We went out to eat at probably one of the nicest restaurants in town. There were four of us. We paid $150 was the bill for four people with, I mean, we were probably eating for an hour and a half, 2 hours, which is just amazing food after amazing food coming to the table and drinks just flowing and $150. Like that's
Not even
that
during a
night out.
happy hour.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. That is something that just we never would have gone to a place like that in Portland because it would have easily been $300 or $400 for four people, and that starts to hurt. But
Yeah.
here it's like we're living much higher because we can do some of the best things. And I mean it's not like the chefs in Portland are any better than the chefs in La Paz. These,
Sure.
going to the top restaurant in either place, they are very comparable. It's just that you're going to pay a heck of a lot less.
And a lot of people end up doing that. They eat out so often because it's
Yeah.
so inexpensive. And it's like, well, my groceries bill is going to be about the same. So I
Yeah.
might as
Yeah.
well just enjoy a lot of the restaurants around me and then, support the local economy that way.
Right. Yeah. I think it's people down here are enjoying the restaurants more than they would have at home.
That's so awesome. I'm so happy for you. Now, what do you do for work? Some people might not know exactly what you do or how you're able to support your lifestyle.
Yeah. So my wife is a consultant. So she has kind of a more regular job back in the States. And that's where we get our healthcare. So just to kind of like the healthcare through her company applies to Mexico. So that's great.
That is
That
great.
definitely complicates things off. And a lot of times that's not the case and you've got to do things. But anyway, we don't have that issue. I have a company and I create videos for life coaches, executive coaches, some therapists, authors, speakers over the internet. And I've been doing that for about 5 or 6 years now. And so everything I do, I can do from anywhere in the world. And I designed my business that way because I was like, I want to be able to live anywhere. And I do that, but I have a YouTube channel. And so there's a little bit of money coming in from that. Not much, like $100 a month or something.
Yeah.
But your YouTube channel is pretty new too. Mine's less than a year
very
old.
much
Is yours? So that's slowly growing. I have another YouTube channel with like 25,000 subscribers. So I'm a video guy, so I've got a number of YouTube channels. But also I make videos for Amazon. So if you go on Amazon and you go to buy like the curtains that are on my little pergola out by the beach, I made a video about curtains, and I've probably made hundreds of dollars off of people buying curtains. And so
You mean like affiliate marketing?
it's similar to affiliate marketing. I have a YouTube channel that is about like selling on YouTube. So people click on the link on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
They watch the video on YouTube, they click on the link, they go over to Amazon, they buy it, I get 5%. But now I'm in a program because I have a big YouTube channel. They invited me in where when you go on Amazon, sometimes the item has videos below, like review videos.
Oh yeah, you're one of those.
I'm one of those. So you
That's
can see it
awesome.
says really small, it says like earns commission for
Yeah.
some people. And the idea I think Amazon had was, a lot of the review videos kind of suck. It's people who are like down their iPhone and it's jiggly and it's really dark.
Yeah.
So they now have approached people who have big presences on YouTube and said, hey, why don't you get a little bit of commission here? And so that's been really very successful.
That's a
the
great
thing
idea.
is, I don't know how long that will last. I mean, Amazon can pull the plug.
Sure, you're not banking on it, but it's helping you in the meantime.
Yeah, exactly. So, but it's probably well, maybe not quite my biggest. It's definitely my biggest client in terms of an income from one source. At this point, Amazon is it. I've got a bunch of other things going on, and I think it's probably just prudent to have it that way. But I feel like I'm not super busy, and that's why I think of it as like almost retired, because I'm like, oh, like this afternoon I took a nap. I was tired. I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna take a nap. But I make all these videos for YouTube, and that's fun. I'll go and make a video about something I got on Amazon. It's just chill. It's very much the Mexican lifestyle.
It's so awesome. And you're designing your lifestyle that way. And I want people to know that you can do this. Like you can design your lifestyle this way. You can start a blog and start running some ads to it, right? Or start not running some ads to it, but start getting people to run their ads on your blog, right? It'll take some time for you to get up and going, but start designing your life where you can be location independent. And Mexico is a wonderful country where you can do remote work. You don't have to get a work permit for that. You do have to get a residency visa for you to live in Mexico, but you don't necessarily need a work permit. As long as your operation, your job, your income source is from outside of Mexico, you don't have to ask for a work permit, and you can design that lifestyle. And then when you're talking about, the types of cost of living that is like 30, 40, 50% lower than what you're probably spending in the US or Canada, like, yes, you can do it.
Yeah, I've met a number of people here. I actually just released a video yesterday about a woman. She's.
I saw that. The flight attendant?
The flight attendant, yes.
Yes.
She's right around 50 years old. And she, pulled the plug and moved here. And it's just the scale of how much cheaper it is to live down and she's in San Jose del Cabo. She's in a nice place, but it's so much cheaper than where she came from in Canada. So there's so many people with stories of that, of like doing the math and going like, oh, I can pull the plug in my 50s and just be done. You have to sell your stuff back in the States. Like we're still like 1 foot in each camp. So we still have a pretty big bills to pay up north. But if you're willing to just move to Mexico completely and leave behind all those expenses of the States, it's so much easier than people think.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, what about household help? A lot of people are like, oh, I'm finally going to be able to afford, a cleaner or like somebody to help me in the house, around the house, or a gardener every once in a while. Do you guys hire any sort of household help?
Yeah. I was thinking about doing a video about this too, but
you should.
So we have a cleaner that comes, and it's a couple, and they come every other week, mostly because we just like our privacy. But they come every other week, and they're here for about 4 hours, 2 people, 4 hours, cleaning the whole time, and it's $40. So, and that's
like
for
800 pesos.
800 pesos, four bathrooms, 3 bedrooms, an office. They sweep around the outside. So it's just, a lot. A lot of stuff that they're doing and the amount of time they're doing it for. So we have that. We also have a whole slew of people who do just little stuff around the house. I found myself getting a little bit lazy, I guess. It's like I have an idea. I'm like, oh, I want to put that on the wall, but I don't. The walls are concrete, and I don't have a concrete drill.
I'm gonna call my buddy.
I would have to go to Home Depot. It's like, let me call Lucero, and Lucero comes over and charges me like, $5 or something for an hour of his work, just drilling holes in concrete and mounting something on the wall. I have him like welding stuff for me. He just installed, actually, I was on Facebook talking about this today, a sensor for my my cistern, because water can be a problem in Mexico, just getting water on a regular basis. So I had him install a sensor in my cistern to tell me when the water is getting low. Like if something happened from the city and I need to start really conserving, there's a little sensor in there. And so I figured out how to do it. I'm like, okay, here are the parts. I want you to weld this over here, and I want you to drill this hole through the concrete here, and I want you to solder these pieces together, and then boom. And I would never hire someone to do that back home. I don't know where I'd even find someone. And it would be really expensive at that point.
Yeah, certainly not.
So it's a lot of fun too. I come up with ideas, and I'm like, oh, this requires welding. I took a welding class in high school. I'm like, Lucero, weld this. So yeah.
For a lot of you guys that you're watching, and you're saying like, oh, but isn't that too low, or because I'm sure somebody's going to comment saying that, right? This is a totally living wage in Mexico. For Mexico, that is an actual fair amount to pay for these things. $40 or 800 pesos for 2 hours of work is really good. So just keep that in mind, that you're coming to a country where a family of 4 might be living on 20,000 pesos, which is almost $1,000 a month. So just keep that in mind, that you're helping provide for the local economy too, by hiring household help, and that these things are actual fair prices to pay for these services.
Yeah, and it is kind of interesting. I usually just pay whatever they ask, because I'm like, whatever is right for them. They both have full-time jobs. And then on every other Saturday, they clean our house. And I'm guessing, one of them works in a school. It's probably, they're making much more on us on a Saturday than they're probably making in a regular job. Sure. One of them, I think, is working at a daycare or something. So I feel pretty good about helping support them. And then, of course, you give them the bonus in December and things like that. So, yeah.
How's the city right now for Holy Week or Semana Santa? Are there a lot of tourists coming in?
Yeah, a lot of Mexican tourists are here. I noticed the other day I tried to go to breakfast somewhere with that subscriber that I mentioned, and we showed up and it was like, whoa, this restaurant's like overwhelmed with people. And then we were like, Semana Santa. Sunday night was probably the most fun I've had on the Malecón, just because there's so many more people and there's so much more exciting and the energy. So yeah, the city's definitely filling up for Semana Santa.
Now, for those who don't know you, they're going to know about you now, right? But I've shared your link on the comments, so look out for that. But you actually do weekly meetups where you gather other newcomers together, and it's a great way. If you're moving to La Paz, definitely join his meetups, because it's a great way for you to make friends. And one of the biggest ways for you to feel like you belong, or like Mexico's the right place for you, is to build some community. So would you mind sharing about your meetups?
Yeah, so they're sadly about to come to a close because I'm moving north for the summer. But so every Sunday night at 6:30 p.m., I choose a place either in downtown La Paz or out here. We kind of live in the suburbs where a lot of gringos live. And we just go to a restaurant and have dinner together. And and it's anywhere from like 10 to 25 people show up. And it's usually a mix of people who've recently moved here and people who are thinking about it. So there's a lot of people in that thinking about it stage. And what's great is they don't have to just ask me all the questions. They're there with a bunch of other people who've done it. And so they get so much information. And I do want to say that, I'm forgetting their names, but they have the Living Simply in Mexico channel. They're in Puerto Vallarta, and they started having meetups too now.
Oh, in La Paz?
No, in Puerto Vallarta.
Oh, okay, got it. So they're kind of emulating some of what you're doing over there.
Yeah, they're trying to convince me to do a Facebook group because they're like, yeah, we copied you on this, copy us on that. I'm not sure yet. But so that's kind of spreading a little bit. They don't have
I want less work, not more work.
Yeah, exactly. But it is a great way to get together with people. And there's a Canadians luncheon that happens once a week here. I think it's Thursdays. They just post it on Facebook. And Facebook is such a great thing. I don't like Facebook, but for living in Mexico, living as an expat, there's an expat group for just any community.
Everything.
Yeah. So there are probably 4 expat groups in La Paz. And so I just post my meetups there, and I know she posts her Canada meetups there. And so you kind of have to be part of Facebook to see everything that's going on in these expat communities.
Right on. I love that you're doing that, bringing people together. I think it's really important for people to not feel alone, especially if maybe you're a single man or a single woman moving to a new area and you don't have that partner like you do, right? You have your spouse, so at any given time, you guys can find comfort in each other.
Right.
But and maybe even if you're not, right? If you're married, it's still fun to make other friends, and sometimes it can feel overwhelming when all you hear is Spanish, and you just want to hear your language for even if it's just an hour a week.
Yeah.
So I love that you're doing that. That's really awesome. You ready for some questions? I see some questions coming in. So first of all, I want to thank you guys all for being here. And I see so many of you chiming in and saying where you're watching from all over the US, all over the world. So thank you so much for being here. Let's see. I'm scrolling through them. Oh, somebody wants to know how your pool area is coming along.
Oh boy. So yeah, if you want to know about my pool, definitely subscribe to my channel, because there's gonna be a video soon. So a little bit of background. We hired an architect that was working on our neighbor's house to rebuild our pool. Like, kind of, when we moved in, there was a big pool between us and the beach, and it was kind of sticking up, and it was really deep and really huge. So it had a leak, so we tore it out and rebuilt everything. We have a small pool. The good news is the pool it's a plunge pool, so they're really tiny pools that are more like a hot tub, but it's like deeper, so you can get in and cool off in the winter, or cool off in the summer, but get warm in the winter. So it's probably 100 degrees right now, so that's great. It is a beautiful hot tub. It's finally operating. The reason I haven't done a video is the fence that we are supposed to be building along the beach. We're supposed to build this gorgeous custom-made metal and glass fence, and we haven't seen our architect in months.
Oh no.
So we now are, instead of working with an architect, we're working with an attorney. So
oh no.
Yeah, we'll be doing a video about that, about what not to do when working with someone that makes you end up working with an attorney to try to get things done. So,
or some of your money back.
Yeah, exactly. I wanted to get that video done for so long because it's so close, but I've been like, oh, is he going to do it? Is he going to do it? Is he going to finish this project? And then I can just, but pool works. No thanks. It's still the old rotten metal, like, ugly fence. I'd rather have the pool than the fence anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. But I get it. You contractually agreed to something and they didn't meet their end of the process. And I'm sure some money was involved.
Yes. Yep. So yeah. And like I said, I'll make a video about all the things that I did wrong to get myself in this situation. So
we will share that when you're done with that video. We will share that with our audience, because I'm sure a lot of people, they don't know what they don't know.
Yep.
Which I'm sure is what happened to you.
Exactly.
Somebody wants to know how your home renovations are coming along. I guess it's the same pool situation.
Yeah, pretty much the same thing. So it's just been between us that we did it's a really big landscaping project with a wall, and so 95% complete.
All right. So somebody wants to know, can they live on $1,000 a month? So they want to return next week with full temporary visa to La Paz, with its tropical weather, delicious food, amazing world-renowned beaches, vibrant Malecón, all for $1,000 or less, for less than $1,000 US a month. What do you think? Can somebody live in La Paz on $1,000 a month?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, definitely. I mean, you might be missing, you might be spending more time at those free beaches than in those restaurants, but it is possible to get a studio apartment here in the probably $300 or $400 range. Or it's interesting. I'm working on a video about renting in La Paz right now, and I worked with a real estate agent, and she showed me all these wonderful places. But I'm like, okay, I know there's all these less expensive places too, because everyone I know has got much less expensive places than what she
Yeah.
showed me. So, yeah, I think on $1,000 a month, it would definitely, especially if you don't have a car, if you're just like living downtown and you're shopping at the grocery store. Yeah,
What,
definitely.
what about utilities? Because I know that, like, for example, in the central highlands of Mexico, utilities tend to be lower because you're on a different pricing scale than, for those of you guys that don't know, all of electricity is basically managed by the government. And there are subsidies in certain, they subsidize electricity in certain parts of Mexico because it doesn't get used as often. Whereas in some of the coastal towns where the weather does increase or get above, a certain amount where air conditioning is needed, then they subsidize up to a certain amount, and then anything that you use after that amount, you kind of pay a penalty, which is known as a DAC or DAC.
Yeah.
So maybe you can talk about your utilities and just what you see in general, maybe even the people that you meet in some of these meetups. Like, what do they normally pay for utilities?
Yeah, utilities are. I still want to do a video about utilities because I need someone to explain the CFE bill. That's the electric bill. Everyone gets one in Mexico. And you're right. I mean, I think I saw there were three different variables. One is where you live. I think there are 8 different zones. So like if you're in a hot area, you pay less for electricity than you pay in a cool area. Um, Also the time of year.
Mhm.
And so the rate depends on the time of the year, where you live, and there
The
was how
the
much you
age,
use.
or
Yeah,
the age even of the contract, right? Like how long ago it was
yeah.
contracted. So even
Uh,
sometimes a newer house will pay less just for being a newer home than somebody who's had a contract. It's really, really screwy.
it's
Um,
very complicated, but
yeah.
yeah, the first little bit of electricity is next to free. So like when we're not here and it's just like just some security lights and stuff on, the utility bill is probably like I don't know, $10 or something like that a month, and utilities actually come every 2 months. But the most recent one, because we've been running the pool with the heater and the pump and whatnot,
Mm,
it jumped up a lot, and it was 2,500, so $125 for 2 months, and it's a pool heater, and
yeah,
that
that's not
was
bad.
probably 3 times what it had been before that. So we're working on figuring that out. We do have solar heat for the pool too, but yeah. So I think it can get expensive to run air conditioning. And that is something tricky about rentals because I've heard that some people won't rent out their houses in the summer because they don't want anyone using the air conditioning because of that feared DAC. Like I want to say there's about 8 levels. So there's that the first one that is just like electricity is nearly free. And with every little bit more that you use, you move up to a level to a more expensive level. But
Right.
once you reach the top, you get stuck there for a year.
Yeah,
So
they
that,
penalize you for a long time until they can see that your usage has really decreased. So if
yeah.
you're a
So
landlord, I get that because you might get stuck with that bill forever.
right, and then also that could be tricky in terms of as a renter. You
Yeah.
might move into a place where someone's been using the air conditioning all summer, and you move in, and you're like, wait a minute, I thought utilities were inexpensive here, and it's like, well, you're not using much, but you're stuck at the highest rate.
Yeah.
So a little complicated, but and
And these
it's
are all
it's
good
fine.
things to ask before you sign the lease,
Yeah,
right? Like,
yeah,
how is this being calculated? Can I see a bill, a previous month's bill?
yeah, and
Any
yeah,
landlord should be able to provide that for you.
current previous month, not from a couple of years ago. So
Right.
yeah,
Right. Exactly. Yeah, I think that's very fair. And, electricity can be very inexpensive in Mexico, but it also can be very expensive if
right.
you're running the air conditioner all day long. So keep that in mind. A lot of people don't know this, or maybe they do, but air conditioning in Mexico is actually a little bit different than how it works in other parts of the world, and that it's not central AC. So you actually have units in the parts that you want to air condition.
There we go.
Oh, there you go. You have a mini split.
Yep. That is the one unit in our house. We have a palapa house with a palm tree roof. So this is the only room that can be air conditioned. But that's pretty typical, is the mini split.
How hot does La Paz get? You said it was 100 degrees right now, so, or was 100 degrees earlier. So how hot does it normally get?
It gets into the high 90s during the summer, during the late summer. So it's a hot place. But the thing, when I was here during the summer supervising that construction project that never finished, I usually was in this room during the day, like from maybe 11 a.m. till about 7 p.m. or so became my work day to be in here with the air conditioning. But at 7 p.m., it was cool enough outside this room that I would just open the doors and the breeze would come through. I never needed to use the AC at night. So I always just open the windows, turn the fans on. So it gets hot, but I've heard horror stories of how hot it gets. And it's like, go to a movie. They have movies in English here. So you can,
great idea. Go to the grocery store.
Yeah, there are places with air conditioning. You can, just like some people do in the US, you can hide from the heat.
Yeah. What about pets? Do you guys have any pets?
Yeah, we currently have a dog and 2 cats that are ours, plus 2 foster puppies. If anyone's looking for a foster puppy, I wish they were in here. They're actually not being bad or anything. They're being good right now and quiet. But very common for gringos, probably in Mexico in general, to adopt a lot of animals and also to foster a lot of animals. But we had four fosters this year, and one of them got adopted out. One of them had to be put down after living with us for a few months. He was sick when we got him, and we just provided him a good end of life. And so now we just have a couple of fosters. But yeah, a lot of people here have a lot of dogs. But yeah, it's just there's so many dogs that need homes.
Mexico really does have a problem with that. And it's just part of the culture. People don't really spay or neuter. So it just has to be, something that we, that changes over time in the culture.
Yeah.
Somebody wants to know about COVID. Like, are mask mandates still a thing in La Paz?
Yeah, everything here is La Paz is, and I don't know if this is across Mexico or if this is La Paz, but it seems like Mexico has done a much better job with COVID than the United States. There hasn't been a big pushback. It hasn't become political and infighting. People they're like, okay, I'm supposed to wear a mask. I'm supposed to do these things. They never shut down the whole economy. So it just was based on, it was kind of like across the country, there was a stoplight. And based on how many people were in the hospital and how many ventilators were taken up and how fast it's spreading in every state got a color. And then based on that color, your business could have so many people. So if it was like really scary, they would close down all the beaches and the Malecón, but every business could have some people in it. And then as we're all green now. I think the entire country is a green, which means everything's open and everything's wonderful, but we're still wearing masks inside. We're still wearing masks when we're in crowded areas on the street. We always do the sanitizing hands when you walk into a store and get your temperature taken, and everyone just kind of does it. And it's just like, okay, this is just a thing. It's still a thing. I wish it was over, but it's not the controversy that it seems to have turned into in the US.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Generally in Mexico, a lot of these topics that seem so divisive in the US are just not really things that divide people in Mexico. Politics, for example, is a perfect example of this. People can really think about the president in 2 very opposing ways and can still be really good friends. People can think about vaccinations in 2 very opposing ways and can still find common ground to become friends and not, avoid those conversations. But personally, I just see that a lot. I see that, like, because my family lives in Mexico. I grew up in the US, so I have like both sides where I have, friends in the US, but family in Mexico. And I see a lot of like these divisive conversations happening more often with my American friends than I do with my Mexican family. Like it's just not a thing. Um,
Yeah,
so
I
it's
think that
refreshing.
I think people in Mexico are just nicer and they don't want confrontation. And it seems like now, for some reason, people in the US just like they want the confrontation, they want to fight with people. And down here, it's just not people just want to live and let live. And just the way
Yeah.
people drive is much more chill and like stop signs. We don't, nobody stops at a stop sign here, but nobody ever gets hit. So everything is more chill, including conversations like that. People like, you know what, we don't need to talk about that. It's not going to make us all happier, and we're not going to change anything anyway.
Now opposing soccer teams, that's a true.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's pretty serious.
Did you see what happened in Querétaro? That was crazy. The soccer match that got out of control, and there was just like a big brawl. I don't know if you guys saw
Oh,
that in the news,
I
but
think I did see that. Yeah.
yeah, it got out of hand. Um, Somebody wants to know. So earlier you explained the best way to connect with mainland. So I assume that she's talking about, how you talked about the Tijuana airport, and that you can basically take lots of flights from the Tijuana airport back to the U.S. I'm assuming this is what you're asking, and I'm sorry, it's a little vague, but
Well,
perhaps maybe you can re-talk
yeah.
about it.
Yeah, well, I mean, the Baja Peninsula is a peninsula, and it was almost like an island down here. So we talked, I think, about things that were expensive. Furniture is really expensive down here because it comes over from the mainland and it
Good
comes
point.
over by ship, and the ship, I think, takes 8 to 12 hours from Mazatlan. So there's a ferry that takes everything back and forth. So everything is really, there's a lot more shipping costs associated. But in terms of getting back and forth, you can take that ferry back to Mazatlan if you want. La Paz has an airport that goes to Guadalajara and all the major cities in Mexico, not the tourist cities. I think that's something that people, you can't get between Cabo and San Jose del Carmen or something like that. It's like you got to kind of go somewhere in between.
You have to go like further in central and then come back north if you want.
Yeah, exactly. You have to hit one of the major cities. You can't go just between tourist destinations. But so it's easy to get there. We haven't been to the mainland at all. I plan on this summer flying down to Guadalajara and then flying, spending some time there and then flying over to La Paz. But and you can take your car on the ferry too. So if you want to.
Oh, really? To Mazatlan?
Yeah, you just have to get a tip. So here in the Baja, you can do whatever you want.
Yeah.
It's the wild, wild west out here. Once you cross to the mainland, the rules start to apply of like, can you import your car, and do you have a Mexican driver's license, and So it's easier to live out here in the Baja Peninsula just because the rules are all much more free.
Yeah. The federales aren't as strict, or you're not going to get as pulled over as you would. What about your experience with cops? Have you, a lot of people just know that it's kind of a cultural thing to bribe in Mexico. What's your experience with that?
I haven't had too much of a problem. I have been pulled over twice. Once for going too slow through a stop sign. So I saw the cop behind me. I'm like, oh no, do I stop? Do I go as fast as the locals? And I chose the middle, and he's like, you're going to cause an accident going that slow through a stop sign. But I think, there's just the ways to get out of the bribe is you just kind of demand the ticket, and they're not going to give you a ticket for not stopping at a stop sign.
I agree. Yeah.
I also was pulled over once for filming. I was at a stoplight and I had my camera, and I was like, da, 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 da. I was at a red light. I'm like, I might as well just spend some time making a video. And he saw me and he pulled me over. And I'm like, yeah, well, you better give me a ticket because I was doing it. But he gave me a warning. So it hasn't been too bad. And I think that's something to consider is how safe this part of Mexico is. La Paz is very safe. There are a lot of places in Mexico that are very safe and a lot of places that are kind of very dangerous.
Yeah.
But it seems like the worst thing that'll happen to you here in La Paz is the police will pull you over and hassle you for a bribe. It seems like the proper amount is 200 pesos or $10. I don't know if you've had experience, but that seems to be the magic number that will usually get the police to leave you alone.
Yeah, I think it depends on the city. I know, like, if you're, maybe in Playa del Carmen or something, they see dollars, right, walking
Yeah.
around. So they might ask for hundreds of dollars, which is outrageous. Don't ever
Right.
pay it.
Yes,
Uh,
exactly. Always
but,
ask for the ticket.
it can
And
be very intimidating if you're getting
right.
stopped and you have no idea and you freeze,
Yeah.
which I totally understand and empathize with also.
Yeah, exactly. I don't fault anyone for doing it, but ideally
Yeah.
don't.
Yeah. What about safety? Do you guys, how safe do you guys feel?
We feel incredibly safe.
Yeah.
Like I walk around La Paz, the whole downtown area, walking around at night. I would feel comfortable with my wife walking around at night. The area that we live in, it seems like the biggest crimes here are people breaking into houses that are unoccupied, or stealing stuff, or breaking into businesses that are unoccupied, or stealing stuff from people's yards or something like that. But most people have fences and walls. So yeah, from a safety standpoint, it feels very safe here. No one's, and one of the things that, I'm pretty far left, and in Mexico, guns, the cartels have them and the police have them, but nobody else has them. Like, it's really hard to buy a gun in Mexico. So like the violence here, the potential for violence is much less amongst the common criminals.
Sure.
So common criminal, if you're going to get mugged, there's a very, very slim chance that a gun is involved. But you're probably not going to get mugged anyway. So it's just, so some things like that. Now, if you're getting involved in the drug trade, you might have some problems with some people with some really big guns.
Definitely,
The street things are just a little different.
Definitely don't get involved with the drug cartels.
No.
It never ends well for anybody.
Yeah.
Ferry takes 12 hours from Mazatlan to La Paz. Good to know.
Thank you. Yep.
The car on the ferry is what she needed to know, so thank you.
Okay, good.
They've been following you for almost a month now and have watched all your videos. Really grateful for your sharing. Thank you, Dion. And she's now a good subscriber of yours. So
wonderful. I love this crossover too between different channels.
Yeah, it's fun. And it's a great way for us to connect, right? Like, so it can be very isolating when you're the only one in front of a camera. And you can probably understand, right? And you want, and people email you, I'm sure they email me too. But it's so nice to be able to just like face to face, even if it's digitally, connect with somebody. So that's why I love that you do those meetups. I truly wish that every city had at least one where, people could meet each other and just feel comfortable, even if it's only for an hour a week. I really think it could be a game changer.
Yes.
So any last words of advice for anybody who might be thinking of coming to La Paz or Mexico in general?
I think it is just, I don't want to say just do it, but it is kind of that. It's kind of like, just get your calculator out and figure out how much money it would take to live in Mexico. And then get your calculator out and determine when you can do it. Because you could go to your financial advisor in the US and they'd be like, you need to work to 72 to be able to retire. And if you do the same calculations for Mexico, it's definitely earlier, and it's probably much earlier. It's surprisingly earlier, I guess, if you're down here. And plus, there are so many different ways to make money now that you can make money online. You can earn dollars and spend pesos. That's something I love talking to people about.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. What do you feel? Do you know many locals? And if you do, how is their feeling towards expats who come to La Paz and bring dollars? Is there any sort of like negative feeling towards, and I know that, we're basing this on your circle of friends, but how do you feel about that?
Yeah, it is interesting. And I was talking with someone about this, is I feel like I don't have Mexican friends. I have Mexican acquaintances. So there are the people, the bartender, the waiter, the bar, and places that I go. They're the people who help me with different things, but I'm not. And if I walk around the neighborhoods and whatnot, I might, grab a beer with someone that I see, but it's not because there's so much of a language barrier. It's hard to just hang out
Yeah,
um, with locals because there are some that speak English, but for them, often people here who speak English, it's definitely a second language, and they're like thinking overtime
sure.
to
Yeah,
communicate, or I'm thinking overtime, and it's uncomfortable. As to how they feel about people being here, I don't have any sense of animosity or any sense of um, any disconnection. It's
that's
just, I
good.
think the main disconnection is the fact that the language is so different. And what I found is that there are different types of Spanish, I guess. There are like the Spanish that are spoken that I can communicate with people. And usually those people speak a little bit of English or a different language. And so they understand to slow down, they understand to use simple tenses. I do the same thing in English. But then there are people who might, be um, just someone that you meet on the streets or someone who's a worker at your house who doesn't speak that, and they like we totally miss each other in communication.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's like, okay, this is where definitely Google Translate comes in. But yeah, so sometimes it's hard. I feel disconnected from that group of people because it's.
But you're trying to learn your Spanish. And I think
Mhm.
that's all that you can do is really try. It'd be different if you absolutely didn't try.
Yeah.
And then maybe people might, take that as like, well, he doesn't actually care to integrate. Um, but I asked that because I've seen a lot of posts recently, or not posts, but other YouTubers that have channels in Spanish and talk about how the expats are just coming in and maybe raising the general cost of living. And I always challenge that with saying, it's providing jobs, it's providing people, like for example, maybe the people that you offered household help to, uh,
Mhm.
a $40 a week paycheck that they probably wouldn't get with a national,
Right.
or somebody else. So there's always balances to these things, and I guess the point of that is for me to tell people who are watching that I personally don't feel like there is any animosity. So if you do ever hear about that on other channels, or sometimes it's not even the nationals that complain, it's other expats that have been living there for like,
Right.
they're like, quit coming over here.
uh,
um
Prices are going up. Yeah, and I
yeah,
feel like in El Centenario, the little town where I live, it's probably 90% locals, but it's those of us who are gringos kind of live down on the water, and then there's a big flat area where the locals live, and then there's up into the hills where the gringos live again. So it seems like it's a pretty good. It seems like the areas where the gringos want to live is not necessarily where the locals want to live, and where the locals want to live is not where it's. There's not this competition
yeah,
for housing, which I think is the biggest problem. And somewhere like
yeah.
San Jose del Cabo or something, where it's just there's a limited amount, and everyone's competing, and the person with the dollars is going to win in that competition.
Sure, yeah.
So that can be hard.
I think that's perfectly laid out and better explained than what I was trying to say.
Yeah.
Um, so thank you so much. If you guys have not already started subscribing to his channel, I'm going to put it up on the screen right now. Please go subscribe. Almost Retired in Mexico. I'm going to put it up. He lives in La Paz, for those of you guys that are asking.
Mhm.
Go to youtube.com/almost retired in Mexico / go subscribe. He has really, really great, entertaining videos all about La Paz. And sometimes you just talk about things in general about living in Mexico,
Yeah.
like the video that you're going to post about your contractor, who I can't wait to see. I want to know what you learned.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to do kind of, it's an interesting thing with all of us kind of spread out around Mexico, where like a lot of us are providing information that is like your channel, good for all of Mexico, but then there's certain things that are also local.
Very
So
local. Yeah,
yeah.
very local.
Yeah.
Right on. Are you coming back after the summer?
Yeah, so I will be back randomly during the summer, and I'll have my happy hours when that happens, just because we've got a place down here. I might as well come here. Um, And but then come November, December, we'll be back down here for the winter and full time at that point until we head back north. So we always rent out our house in Portland, so we
Right
can't
on.
go home if we wanted to.
Yeah, got it. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Brighton, for being here with me today and spending your afternoon with us. I'm sure that you would rather be sipping a margarita than answering all my endless questions, but I
Oh,
really
I
thank
love
you.
this. This is what I
That's
live for. And thank you so much. And I would love to invite you to be a guest on my channel. I love this live with questions and whatnot. So this is something I want to add to my channel. And you might be the first person that I have as a guest with this techno setup that you've created.
I would be honored.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thanks, everybody. And I will see you guys next Thursday at 5 p.m. We're going to have a lady in Ensenada. So talking about the Baja Peninsula, if you're interested in Ensenada, tune in next week, Thursday, 5 p.m. Central, with a chat with Kathleen. So see you guys next week. Thank you, Brighton.
Bye-bye.
Hasta luego.